Hello, book boys.
Hello.
That was a very creepy way of saying good morning from Japan and good evening from Germany.
Hey, it's almost midnight.
We are meeting today to discuss a very short story from our boy Franz Kafka called Investigations of a Dog, which was written in 1922 and published posthumously, like most of his work, in 1931, I believe. It was originally written in German, and today I have the Michael Hoffman translation, and Phil himself, being the German that he is, has read the German. Anyway, on to the more important things. How are you doing, Phil?
I think I might have fucked up, Nick. I accidentally read the lyrics to "Who Let the Dogs Out" by Baha Men. Was that not what we're reading today?
Oh, that's not what we're reading today. No.
Okay. Just kidding.
Okay.
I read the story. Yeah. Kill me. No.
That was great. That was really worth it. That was really worth it.
So that's how I'm doing. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm very alert and awake. I feel like a spring chicken.
Wonderful. There could have been a dog reference there somewhere, but
I was thinking spring dog, but I don't think that exists.
no.
So apparently, according to Wikipedia, Investigations of a Dog was written soon after Kafka finished is the wrong word because he never actually finished it, writing The Castle, which I am currently reading at the moment. And we have been in discussions about bringing into an episode as well because we just love our boy Kafka, and I don't know, I just want to read everything he's written. And to be honest, this book in a way kind of sobered me up to Kafka a little bit. I think like some of the short stories we've read, like I've like fallen in love with so many of them, and The Trial is such an amazing book. I was like, he just can't miss. He can't miss. And it might be a stretch to say this is a miss, but it definitely kind of took me out of my Kafka delirium a little bit.
It didn't hit right away. Like it was a bit of a drag, the like first third of it, but then I got into it. I kind of got what he was trying to do here.
That's good. Okay. So yeah, where do we start with this?
What's the premise, or what's the gist of the story? I mean, there's not much of a story. It's more of an exploration, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like is there a name for this like genre of literature where it's like a kind of monologue, like Underground Man, Ningen Shikaku kind of character?
I'm sure there
basically
is.
Talking about his life. Basically, we have it's a recollection about moments in this character's early life, and the character is a dog. So it's written from the perspective of a dog, and it's all about dogdom, or like the world of dogs, and we kind of get glimpses into, dog culture and the things that concern dogs and the way that dogs think about the world, and the things that they also, I suppose, aren't aware of as well. And I guess the story mainly revolves around like a recollection of a experience that the dog protagonist had when it was very young, seeing this troop of other dogs coming to town and then dancing and singing and exhibiting like a very strange dog culture that they'd never seen before, and that having like a very profound effect. And then talking a little bit about the protagonist's own position in dog society and how they're kind of viewed by other people, by other dogs. And then I guess it kind of ends on this like, how do I even put it? A kind of discussion on dog science.
Okay, it's interesting because I would have summarized that very differently.
Really? Cool.
I would have said it's mainly a discussion on how this dog in dog society interacts and interrogates science and their scientific method. And it kind of leads in with this story about the singing dogs, and later it goes into the science of music a bit. But that's more of an intro. That's not really at all what it's about, I thought.
Fair enough.
Like, I think it spends more than 70% of the meat talking about the science aspect.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I read the first. I read this in two goes, and the first go I read it in was up to the music bit. Anyway, yeah. So, what is dog science?
Okay, so he wrestles with the central tenet. Okay, so there are a couple of things we have to establish that are like weird in a Kafka makes sense kind of way. So, one aspect is that this dog is convinced that all dogs, including himself actually, but it's mostly focused on all the other dogs as well, they actually possess some kind of superior internalized knowledge that they are not able to access or not willing to acknowledge that exists. So if you ask another dog about this knowledge, he would deny it. And he could even try to interrogate himself, but know that it wouldn't go anywhere. Another aspect is, and this is where the science part comes in, is the central question of where does food come from? And he says the central tenet of dog science is that food comes from the earth. And I'm wondering, is that the word it used in the English translation, the earth?
It is, yeah, it is. Yeah,
okay.
Food comes from the earth.
Okay. And so, yeah, but the mechanisms of how exactly the earth gets this food are unknown. And when, he was a young dog and curious about this and asks other dogs, they would shut him down. Like, well, when you're really hungry, you'll have food, you haven't starved so far. So just be content with the food you have and stop this line of questioning, basically. Yeah, and then later it goes into him doing experiments, like how, trying to approach this question, but him just being a stupid dog who is like can't resist his instincts. Every time he tries to experiment with resisting food or something like that, the blind hunger just overwhelms him, and he just eats the food and gets nowhere, basically.
Yeah, there's it is the word science is, I mean, they are talking about like scientific questions for sure, and it is funny how there is this like unaddressed contrast between dogs who are really dogs, and it's not meant to be like a kind of metaphor. They really are dogs talking about experiments and talking about science, and yeah, the idea that they literally can't. There are limits to how far they can experiment on with food because they literally can't not eat it. So there are these like there are those kinds of limitations, but there also seem to be like these cognitive limitations as well, or just like ways that they conceive of the world. There's this whole tangent about flying dogs, and which we can only assume are birds, but actually maybe aren't birds. I'm not 100% sure, because the protagonist admits to having never seen them, having only heard of them before. but they're basically described as, they're understood as dogs in any sense, in any sense of the word, but are like floating and kind of heretical in a way because they are so like odd.
We'll talk about the flying dogs in due time. This is probably the most confounding part of the story, so we'll save that for later. But
yeah.
So I, about 30 to 40% in, I had this aha moment where I figured out why it had to be dogs, like why this story was, he picked dogs as the setting or as the protagonist. And I wonder if you also had the same realization, or if you think I'm correct in this. So should I just put you on the spot and ask yours first?
I don't think I've really given this enough thought.
Okay. So then
I read this in a van.
I'll show you mine. You show me yours. The central tenet of this dog science is that there's this question of where does food come from, and no one knows, right? No one knows, and no one can really interrogate this. But they have these beliefs, like, for example, peeing on the ground seems to be a part of what makes food appear, right? Like in this very not directly connected, not really making sense, but overarching idea of food comes from the earth. We can't question that. Sometimes it falls from the sky, but that's all included within this dog science because the earth could still be responsible for food falling from the sky. And, dogs have to pee every now and then anyways. So he's like, the heretics say that peeing on the ground, you can't not pee on the ground. So who really knows if that contributes to the food? But he says that's like a heretical point of view in this society. It's really about like, peeing on the ground is like a central part of what makes the earth produce food. And
yeah, okay.
Also doing like a little dance or singing or like barking, basically, right? So there's all these dog behaviors that they think makes the food appear, but they don't really know. And the reason why this can only be dogs is because, of course, if it were wolves, they would know where the food comes from, right? And he talks about this generational lost knowledge of like the ancestors have some like they are responsible for our plight in some way, but this is, they probably weren't even really dogs. He says, he even hints at that. And I figured it out before he said that, so I'm kind of proud of that. But he was like...
That's actually brilliant, yeah, shit.
Yeah, it's like, because...
I'm stupid.
Because humans made dogs, like they domesticated them, and now they're this unnatural, you could even say like non-scientific existence in nature that, they don't know where the food comes from. They don't know how to hunt, how to catch food, how to... how to find fruit or whatever in the forest. So... yeah, they have this, I guess it's like if you take a person from the 21st century that only talks to ChatGPT for answers and you put them in the forest, like, oh yeah, wait, how do we make food again? Like,
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. We also have like this kind of glaring question of, there is like this very, very, you feel this very strong absence of like anything other than dogs. It's weird that there's no discussion of humans, assuming that these are like dogs living in human society.
Yeah.
Which is not, I don't know if it's necessarily like, I mean, it doesn't feel like a very elegant idea to be saying that these are domesticated dogs that are now living away from humans.
No.
But it is also strange that there's no reference of actual humans, and there's no reference of any of like the human infrastructure or anything like that.
Yeah, it's either a very deliberate part of what we're missing that he's trying to say, or a part of me thinks he just left it out because that would ruin the whole premise. Like if we just explain that humans are the ones giving us the food, then it's kind
Of
of
course,
like
yeah,
we've kind
yeah.
of solved the question. But I think
Of course.
it's like they can't even think that far. Like they don't even realize that, which obviously isn't true to actual dogs. Like they know that if they please their owner and they get food from humans, right? But
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it describes how food falls from the sky, I think that's very clear that it's referencing how humans, throw food to dogs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if it doesn't fall from the sky, it's on the floor where a dog sniffs it out and eats it.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever you give a dog a treat and they don't know exactly where it is, and then they find it, they sniff it out, which also is like a play to their instincts to sniff out food.
I thought it was funny how he was going to do this experiment of like maybe the food is actually following the dog instead of just falling on the ground. It's almost like this like retard way of Newton's apple,
Right.
It's like maybe if I don't eat the food while it's falling on the ground, maybe I actually, like almost like a magnetic kind of reaction, that the food doesn't actually just fall flat on the ground. It kind of gets attracted toward the dog. So he was like, I'm gonna test this by not eating it. And then he was like, oh, I was partly successful because I noticed while it was falling, it did fall into my mouth. I just never quite managed to like not eat it while it was still falling. So I never really found out if it would keep falling.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like he's like mocking scientific inquiry in some sense, but also, I guess like part of me felt that there was like a distinct mocking of, I wouldn't say I guess Buddhism or this kind of ascetic religious stuff, because at the end he goes into this experiment where he's like, I'm just gonna not eat. I'm gonna hunger myself, and to try to advance this scientific inquiry through that, which, in like we as the reader know that this is just like a dumb dog move, and that really by starving himself, he's not gonna prove that the food is gonna follow toward him. Like he's not gonna find out anything. He's just gonna starve himself. And yeah, I wonder if that's like a commentary on like all this like going into the mountains and not eating anything and free yourself from all worldly desires, and then even he takes one step further, because then he has this like weird experience where he meets this other dog, which we don't know is really there or if it's like a hallucination, and he can hear him sing before he even starts singing. Like it's almost like he enters the next dimension, which is probably him just on like a hunger fever or whatever. So yeah, it kind of felt like making fun of this aesthetic ideal. Yeah.
Well, also, yeah, I mean, it's definitely worthwhile talking about that dog or whatever that dog is, because that dog. So during the protagonist's hunger strike, they are visited by this very strange, this handsome dog, and the dog basically. He's like, why are you here? And the dog is basically like, I'm hunting, or I'm looking for food. He says, I'm a hunter. So maybe this was a wild dog. Maybe this was a wolf that the protagonist like encountered, because it does describe them like going into the forest, or going into like a place which is far away from everything, in order to do the fast. And like you say, like there is kind of doubt, and it's also written into it as to whether that kind of encounter was real or not. But maybe it was kind of like a hallucination that revealed some kind of deeper instinct. I don't really know what that really says, other than that, but. About the Buddhism stuff, it's hard to say because like I think Kafka was like quite. I don't know for sure, but I think he was like a little bit enticed by like Buddhist thought and stuff, and he was definitely quite interested in like the East, and like Eastern philosophy and stuff. But yeah, there is like. I mean, maybe he knew enough to know that to have an opinion on it. That the idea that you could like learn about the world through privation or like some kind of like ultimately pointless act of restricting something from yourself.
I mean, more than a deliberate mocking, I guess it feels more an exploration of the idea, right? And like how humans or how someone would come to this idea even. And he does hear this music in the end, so there's a question of like, did he actually achieve something, or like, what's happening there? It's not exactly clear, and I think it's on purpose, It's not the kind of. I don't think he wrote this story about dogs to specifically criticize Buddhism.
Yeah, sure, fair enough. Yeah, and it's also. I don't know, I guess it's kind of interesting that this like whole fasting experiment did end up, as like the protagonist describes, like having really long consequential effects on their life. But yeah, I mean, I guess overall, like just this feeling of like you're seeing an animal which you have a higher cognitive ability than, trying to like inquiry and understand questions about the world or understand why the world is the way it is, and then kind of, but clearly not having the capacity to actually the cognitive capacity, and also just kind of this like baseline, restraint of like urges and stuff to actually achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve.
That's just how I feel to listening to people all the time.
But I mean, you're kind of not wrong. Like,
sorry. I mean, sorry, not sorry. Kidding, not kidding.
I mean, it makes you wonder if, there are. I mean, it's limits of knowledge, and what are the limits of human knowledge as well, like the way that we can think about the world.
It's probably how AI thinks of us. Like,
exactly,
here's another motherfucker asking me how to cut an onion. Jesus Christ.
There's a fucking guy asking me how the mirror can see me when I have a towel in front of it. How can the mirror see me?
So I thought the ending was quite cryptic, and I really have no point on this whatsoever. Like, he ends it on this almost in like one sentence. This comes in at the end, and he's like, well, at least we have freedom. Isn't that great? And then it ends on this message of how great freedom is, and I'm not sure where exactly that came from.
No, I have wrote a question mark here, because I have no idea. I'll read a little bit of it. Where should I read from? Were I to brag, I could say that it was this instinct, which is the. Because the deeper ground for my scientific inability seems to be an instinct, and not a bad instinct at that. Were I to brag, I could say that it was this instinct that has destroyed my abilities as a scientist. Because wouldn't it be odd, after all, if I, who in the ordinary things of daily living, which are certainly not the simplest, demonstrate a tolerable comprehension, if not of science, then at least of scientists, as witnessing my results. If I should have been unable from the very beginning to raise my paw to the lowest rung of science. This was the instinct that, perhaps out of regard for science, but a different sort of science, from that practice today, an ultimate science, has led me to esteem freedom more highly than anything else. Freedom as it is on offer to us today is a wretched weed, but it's freedom of a kind, something to possess. Okay.
I mean, like, the most shallow take I can come up with is that, like, he didn't discover anything, but he, like, discovered that he is autonomous in his ability to discover and not discover. And he failed, but at least, like, he had the, like, self-autonomy to do that. But, yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he does recognize that he is he can't do science.
Also, it's not exactly clear, I guess, if this idea of science, this dog science, if it is really even similar to what we think of as human science, right? Because at the end, what he calls science is just this. It's just this belief in the tenet that food comes from the earth, right? That's really it. That's really all there is to this dog science, right?
I don't know. No, I mean, well,
like it's almost self-contradictory, because, like, science implies that you have empiric trials,
sure.
and you come to a like something that you can explain. Whereas his science is like the blind belief in a, like, central axiom.
There is, like, a central axiom, but I mean, a lot of the book is, like, talking about these different experiments to, he talks about like trying to till the soil, kind of, and trying to, like, different ways of trying to generate food, and seeing if the food generates at a higher frequency or a lower frequency, depending on what he does, which is obviously scientific, right? And which is also hindered by the instinct to eat the food. And the whole fasting thing is also an experiment, right? The central tenet, sure. I do wonder though if we probably have central tenets in science that today that we consciously or unconsciously recognize. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, you had something to say.
Yeah, at, like, some points he describes his endeavor to, like, discover this hidden mechanism of how the food works and everything. Like, he keeps saying that he's working against science, like he's almost trying to disprove the science in some way. Like, because it's this idea that you're not supposed to question it also. Like, you're not supposed to ask that question. And, this, like, if you have food in your mouth, why are you complaining, kind of thing. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I guess but
which is also
like
a very common feature in the history of science as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about what this central tenet could be in human science, and I guess it's the axiom that existence exists. Like, if you start, you just have to accept that, and within that framework, you can then say, oh, we can discover the laws of motion and how to grow food properly, and I don't know what happens to mice if you insert certain chemicals into them in a lab setting. But if you don't agree with the tenet that existence exists, then you're not really getting anywhere. At the same time, there's no scientific explanation for that. Like, I guess we have, like, the Big Bang and stuff, but then you get into this, like, this is a bit above our pay grade, but there's no, like, I guess there's, like, a similar wall there, right? Where you're like, you just have to accept this. Same with the dogs, right? Like, because without the food, they're gonna starve. So food just comes from the earth. You're just gonna have to live with that. There's no rational explanation, or at least not one that you can comprehend or is available to you through scientific inquiry. And then you can do experiments and stuff within that framework, but there's really no questioning that axiom or getting around it or explaining it.
Yeah. I guess so. yeah, all of the other dogs are very they seem to all be very, very unlike the main character. They seem to all be very, very uninterested in any kind of, well, anything really, to be honest, other than eating.
See, in one aspect,
singing.
yes. But I also felt like, because the protagonist also keeps saying that, like, talking to them was futile because they wouldn't be interested or have anything to say anyway. So it, like, he kind of keeps it all to himself. So I wonder, like, from another dog's perspective, wouldn't he look the same way that he is looking at the other dogs? Like, he had this one experience in his youth where he kind of tried to question society, but after that he kind of shut down, right?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it depends on how. Depends on it. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, like, he ends the book as an old dog saying, oh, I'm going to do this fasting thing again. I'm going to do it properly this time. So if you were like, you know, it's not that he's had a transformation where he's closed off that kind of curiosity. And,
True.
know, if as an old dog, if he'd been approached by a younger dog that's asking all these questions, he would be opened up by it, surely, you know.
Nick, as an old dog, if you're approached by a younger dog, what's the correct response? Exactly. Can I see your ID?
That's what I was gonna say, pretty much. Yes. Okay.
So there's two mysteries left that we haven't really talked about. One is the flying dogs, and the other one is the music element and how he the music stuff connects to the science discussion in the end, because there is this idea that song and dance, which I guess is like dog behavior, just like barking and jumping, it kind of connects to somehow. Sometimes it connects to food coming, and sometimes it doesn't. So I guess, like, if the dog's barking, sometimes he gets thrown a bone, and, you know, sometimes if no one's around, he doesn't, or something like that, right? He goes into this, like, science of music. But then it doesn't connect super clearly to the first third of the story, where he talks about the trio, or the 7 dogs he met as a child, which you mentioned. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole. So firstly, what is the word in the German original for? Is it a common word used to describe music? Does it have any implication that the word music in English doesn't have?
No, it's literally just Musik. It's music, yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, there we are then. I was kind of. I mean, it comes in, like, the very, very, very beginning of the book, basically, and it's already kind of like an odd setting, and you're already kind of, like, mentally adjusting to what's going on, and then they start talking about music, which feels like a very kind of specific term to use, and I don't know, it's weird, because in the beginning we have these, like, there are these 7 dogs that come in, and the way that Kafka describes it, I think he's like so good at, like, these so really vague, like, you have no sense of space and, like, no sense of how things happen. It does feel like this weird, like, instinctual, like, perception of the world where suddenly there's, like, food in front of you, and you don't really see where it comes from. For example, like, you know, suddenly there are these dogs here and they're dancing, and you don't really know how they got there. Like, they didn't walk into the room. There's no room, you know, there's nothing. There are none of these, like, which actually, I don't know if you remember one of his, like, I think it's like his first short story that we read together. The one about, like, the kids running home from playing.
Yeah.
Running. And I remember with that one as well, like, I can't remember the name of it, but with that story as well, like, there was this really beautiful, like, it was much happier in tone, but similar kind of just vagueness.
Yep.
Like, really dreamlike.
I thought of that
And
as well. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, you have music coming in, and it seems to have like this sort of physical effect on the protagonist. It was like, I'm like, are these like dogs attacking him? Like, it sounds like they're kind of beating him up.
I didn't really get that,
Is
but
it
he
with
definitely
music?
was. He was like annoyed that they wouldn't respond to him, right? Like he tried to ask them about the music or what they're doing, and then they just kind of shut him off and they left. Yeah.
But there is like this description of him being like crushed by them and like, or like crushed by the experience of it or something, and then
yeah.
being exhausted by it. And it says, I was let go because I was too exhausted, too destroyed, too weak to be able to hear. And it's weird, like, I don't know, vague. It didn't seem just to me like the dogs were coming there and then doing a dance and then walking away. It seemed like the whole experience like went through him. Anyway. But
I mean,
also,
yeah.
No, go on. Sorry.
It might be actually somewhat similar to how we experience music. I mean, this creature is obviously very limited in its ability to perceive and understand reality, right? He doesn't even understand that the food falling from the sky is probably thrown to him by someone. So it's like literally someone like a 2D character trying to explain a 3D world. Like you're just missing a central like ability to perceive reality, and you're never gonna get it. And it feels like pitiful and sad almost, like he's trying so hard to understand and devoting his life to this, but like you're just watching like a 2D stickman trying to break out into 3D, and it's just not gonna work. And music, I guess, like also this like aesthetic thing we talked about where he starves himself, and spirituality and all that, like similar to, I guess, humanity. Like music is this thing we can't really rationally scientifically explain, but it moves us and it does make us feel some things, and I guess you're kind of tapping into like another dimension. It's like you're stepping into 2.5th dimension with music, but it doesn't really make sense, but there's something there, right?
Yeah, the music theorists, the reason the scary chord is scary is because it's scary. That's the whole of music theory explained.
Music science and music studies.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is kind of like but he does understand it as music, which is weird. Like it's not like there's a word music, like which implies that there's like some kind of like understanding of like what exactly it is. It's not just noises, you know. But I feel like that's what you just said is like kind of is maybe the most convincing thing. That it is like this. You do have a physical experience to music sometimes, and if you're like a baby, for example, like listening to some classical music, you're probably gonna trip the fuck out and go crazy. Right? You're gonna listen to some like heavy metal, you'll have a completely different experience probably.
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm not a baby, so I can't check the baby science on that one. But maybe after my karmic balance, the karmic wheel is spun and I'm reborn, I will
where is he going
get
with
back
this?
to you.
Next time on the Book Boys podcast, we'll be interviewing a bunch of babies on music.
I have some babies I know.
Oh God.
Anyway, he describes these dogs as in breach of the law. Why are the dogs in breach of the law? I mean, I think this feels like a segue to get into dog society. But these dogs aren't like normal dogs, right? And maybe this is focusing too much on a point that's not really like this section, which isn't that important. But it does feel weird that like we're introduced to these dogs and they are for some reason not real dogs, but they're not. They can't be human.
See, part of me feels like Sorry, go on.
I mean, they stand on their hind legs at some point, but then they can't be human, because if they were human, then why is there no mention of humans elsewhere? And I opened Wikipedia to get the information for the book, and it. In fact, before I say that, you should say your thing, because I don't want to.
I mean, my thing is basically just gonna shut this down in the most like small brain way possible. But as the 2D stickman not grasping this 3D story, part of me just feels like Kafka was like tripping out in this first little thing with the music dogs, and he was just like scribbling away, and then he was like, "Oh, we can actually make this into a story," and then he just ran with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Wikipedia says very definitively, which is kind of funny, that they are a troupe of circus or performing animals. Which, I mean, does maybe make sense, and you know, he's a very sensitive character that's very sensitive to the differences between these different kinds of dogs, including the flying dogs, and anything that's like not normal dog is like heretical.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the flying dogs.
Woo!
So the bird analogy you made, it's so obvious, but I didn't even get there. I feel like the dog now.
Wait, what?
That you were like, maybe these flying dogs are like birds, and it's just dogs thinking that birds are also dogs, but they're not getting it. Which that feels like very obvious, but I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a 1.5D dog apparently. But
I mean, I didn't get the wolf thing, so we're even.
Fair enough. I felt like it was also just kind of this like just wrong and like impossible thing, like a superstition kind of, or like some just like another layer of bullshit that they believe for some reason but can't explain. I didn't think it really stood for anything in particular.
Oh, great, Phil. Great. Thanks for saying, let's talk about the air dogs later, because I really want to dig into it, and then saying, oh, the air dogs, I don't think there's anything significant about this at all.
Okay. So what I meant is
this is podcasting.
I don't think the air dogs are like a specific mirror image to like another specific animal, like birds or something, right? In the same way that the ugliest man in Zarathustra doesn't really stand for any other thing in particular. It's just kind of, it's by definition the ugliest man, kind of.
Okay, fair enough. See, I am not sure. I think that because the protagonist also admits that they'd never seen air dogs before, right?
Yeah.
Which says to me, it's like something that they've heard exists. And that there are these flying dogs that are no bigger than your head. It is very weird to me that you would hear the idea of an air dog and be a dog and live anywhere on Earth and not see a bird and think that is the air dog. But I think that might be the point. That it's like, this maybe is this old wolf wisdom, or maybe it's like another dog that's like a little bit more 1.6D instead of 1.5D. You know, like who has recognized that these things actually exist, and there's something that's beyond food. Although the air dogs could be food, but anyway, you know what I mean? Like, the fact that the character, the protagonist, hasn't seen these things around them as air dogs and made that connection is feels. Maybe like another way of emphasizing how limited the little doggy is.
Yeah, I feel like more so than trying to figure out what the air dogs are supposed to mean, the point of that was more so to demonstrate how, like, in this dog science, or let's call it like dog epistemology, like this dog accumulation of knowledge system, he explains how he's never seen one, and really the whole thing makes no sense, and like it's kind of like Santa Claus, right? Like they would never even touch the ground, and how would they even get food? And you know, the dogs, their whole pride is their legs, and they don't even use the legs and all that. So it really is quite silly and absurd. I think he even uses the word absurd. But also, he's absolutely convinced that they exist, and it's a central part of his worldview. And I thought so more than trying to figure out what the air dogs are, it's more to demonstrate the way he and other dogs conceive of knowledge. It's just like, there's just these air dogs that you're going to have to accept because, and it's really fucking dumb, but also we are absolutely convinced they exist. And like the obvious connection would be like, this is like a, you know, reference to religion or spirituality or like superstitions or something like that, but that all also feels like too obvious, so I don't know.
Yeah. Welcome to the world, kid. Food comes from the ground, and there are air dogs. Yeah. Any closing thoughts on this little book?
I don't know. I think I will dedicate the rest of my life to figuring out whether my peeing on the floor does indeed have a causal effect on me getting food. But I guess I'll never find out, because how am I just gonna stop peeing, right?
I guess so,
It's
yeah.
it's like an econometrician's nightmare. Is it correlated or not?
I'm going to try and figure out if eagles are real or not.
Eagles or e-girls?
E-girls.
I'm still not sure which one.
E-G-I-R-L-S.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying eagles, like, because of the bird thing. Okay.
Oh, no. Sorry. Okay.
Wait, why? Come on, give me some more.
I don't know. I just thought it sounded funny.
Okay. I think we're
I've
done
heard
here.
they exist, but I've heard they exist, but I've never seen one. That's probably why. Because they're e-girls. What is the E on e-girls?
Electric.
It's like email.
Yeah.
Electric. Is email electric mail?
Yeah, electronic, actually. Electric is something
Electronic
else.
mail. So,
Did you just put that together? Maybe you
mail.
are a 1.5D dog. That might be the...
He's done it again. I can't let you keep getting away with this. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this has been a interesting discussion for you, and catch us in the next one.
Keep your dogs
Goodbye.
toasty. Goodbye.